Streaming live around the world, this is Paper Cuts with Brad and Jay.
We'll just get this out of the way here. Thanks for joining us on Brad's show.
Yeah, thanks for coming to my show. I did not say shenanigans. Okay.
Are you drinking already?
No, I've just got water. Always looking smooth, aren't you?
Yeah, I do it. I try to clean it up for the show. Look, one of us has to. Come on.
Joining us this evening, who really cares? It's the end of the world.
I'm not returning that movie to Blockbuster.
We are live.
Giggity goo. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Paper Cuts. I'm Jay. That's Brad. Notes for the show. Brad, for some reason, I have a couple of notes for the show.
Okay.
It just the paper just says pornography and a rubber Godzilla mask.
There we go.
So there's a story behind both of those. Our guest this evening, everyone, he is the writer of the newly released from Weird Punk Books. I got a glare on that. Look at that. Pornography for the End of the World.
Got to blur it out for the people.
Yeah. It's just a glare. Welcome to the show. Brendan Vidito, everyone. Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Jay, that was the rudest intro you've ever done. You didn't say his name.
Which part? Oh, I just said
Shame on you.
Because of the book. It's a tie-in.
Yeah,
it's the end of the world.
It fits. It's thematic.
Hey, I was getting into the spirit of the show.
Yeah.
So Jay, if you had a Blockbuster late fee, how much do you think a late fee would be for Blockbuster by now?
Didn't the final one just close like last year or something?
Did they? I think there's one left in Alaska, wasn't there? Is it gone?
Is
now?
that the one, or is it still open? I don't know.
There's the one in Bend, Oregon, right?
Is there?
Is that where it is?
There was like one or two left, and that was it. I miss video stores. I wish they still had them.
Oh, me too. I
don't miss
dreams
the price.
No, well, it's about the same price as it is to rent it, like on Amazon Prime or something.
What now? Yes, I remember going to the Blockbuster and like getting 4 movies, and it was like $25. And then Redbox came out, and I was like, hey, you get the movies for 99 cents. And
that's not the same though. It doesn't feel the same as going to the video store.
I know. It was fun walking around a video store and checking things out.
The ritual aspect of it.
Brendan, you're in Canada, correct?
Yeah, Ontario.
So they're still using VHS up there.
Yeah, we're using Betamax over here.
Boom. We need like a bell every time I make fun of Canada.
So be prepared. That's his favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
It is not. Come on.
Crack Canadian. So Brendan, have you seen the Canadian just awesome horror movie called Ginger Snaps?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
The worst movie. One of the worst movies ever made. Yeah. I was on this other show, this show that we can't talk about.
Contractual obligations.
I know. Part of my history of closing down shows, and we reviewed that movie, and I gave it some negative points. So
you gave it like a negative 20 stars or something.
It was just horrible. I can't believe I finished it. Okay, enough about that. We're here to talk about Brennan and all of his writings and porn and rubber Godzilla masks and all this stuff. So, congrats on the new book, by the way.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel about seeing it
finished
everywhere
today? So
did you finish it today?
I did finish it today. It was good.
Yeah. How do you feel about seeing it everywhere you're looking right now on Twitter and Instagram? Everybody's got it. Like, look what I got, guys.
Yeah, it's really it's so really humbling because I mean it's been a while since Nightmares and Ecstasy came out, and I was kind of worried that like this one's gonna kind of come out and like no one's gonna really give a shit, and so it's really it's just kind of I'm really honored that people are care about it and they're sharing.
Well, I think people care about it and give a shit because we're doing a little giveaway.
Yeah,
courtesy of Weird Punk Books. Sam over there hooked us up with the copy, and we're doing a giveaway, and we were promoting it on Twitter, and a lot of people responded, and so many people that Brad created a wheel of names, and a little bit later, in about an hour or so, we're going to draw a name, and someone's going to win a copy. So people are giving a shit. People want to know about this book. So
it's really nice.
The title is definitely intriguing people, and the cover too. The cover's great.
Cover too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think that goes along. Like I mean, so the story behind that was Sam and I were just kind of shooting ideas around for a cover, and all I said was like I want it to look like a Polish movie poster, and there's this kind of I guess tradition in Poland, like this art movement where like they do really surreal looking movie posters, and Sam was like, "Why don't we just get like the guy, like Wildslaw Wiskowski, to do it?" So we just checked out the website, and I was looking through his portfolio, and like just I forget what film this was for specifically, but it just like fit the kind of essence of this book so well.
It's a romantic comedy. It's a rom-com.
Exactly, yeah.
Rom-com. I mean, from our conversations that we've had over the last couple of years with Sam, all you have to do is say art and movie and poster. He could find it.
Yeah,
like, he goes to
yeah.
extreme lengths to find that particular cover for the books. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he cares really deeply for like the books he publishes, and it's great. Yeah.
And that cover, just the art piece without the title and stuff on there, like perfectly matches the book. You couldn't have found a more better piece of art for the cover.
Yeah, we really lucked out with that one.
Where did the name Pornography for the End of the World come from? Where did that? Because none of the stories are called that. And I don't remember. Do you say it in any of the stories or not?
No, I think it came with the realization that there was a kind of an apocalyptic thread running through them.
Okay.
And it just, I don't know. It was a lot. It just came to me more easily than, because Nightmares in Ecstasy took a while to figure out that one, but this one was very kind of intuitive, and it popped in my head. I'm like, oh, this sounds good. And I asked Sam, I was like, is this cool? And he's like, oh yeah, this is awesome. So, yeah, we put on that one.
And the worms, I feel like the worms were also a theme running throughout some of the stories. Do you have a worm fascination?
Like, it's funny because that was something I realized in hindsight. Like, it sounds weird because there's just so many worms in my stories. And it's not like I had like this traumatic moment in my childhood where like I fell into a pit of worms or something. But I think the representative of kind of the larger themes of these stories, which is that kind of repulsion and attraction. Because I think like worms in general, like I'm not like hold that for me. I just, they're kind of gnarly, but there's a fascination at the same time.
Yeah.
Creepy crawlies.
Yeah.
So I mean, what would you? I wouldn't say this is just straight up horror, or what would you call it a genre of the stories in this collection, or would you even call them anything? I mean, it's just a kind of a hodgepodge, something there for everybody type deal.
Yeah, there's elements of like the surreal, like horror, body horror. There's post-apocalyptic and apocalyptic themes. It broadly speaking, I think it falls within sort of the horror genre, but yeah, there's a lot of kind of, it's operating under different kind of umbrellas at the same time.
It's very much a transgressive fiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
yeah, because that's some of my favorite writing is transgressive. So that's always something kind of I try to aim for in my own writing.
When you were writing these, was there a theme in your head trying to make them all connected with this apocalyptic feel to them, or were these just several stories you've written over a period of time and figured, hey, they kind of go together with the end of the world theme and all that stuff put together?
Yeah, like both collections, it's kind of like a happy accident where they just all ended up sort of fitting the same theme. And I guess like I write in these kind of pockets of like obsession. Like Nightmares in Ecstasy was very much like relationship focused and really body horror heavy. And this one, most of the stories were written during COVID. Okay. And I think, like just during these kind of really kind of awful pivotal times that happened recently. So I think the apocalyptic thread is like very much just like it kind of insinuated its way into a lot of the stories.
We actually get that a lot from some of our guests over the past year, that a lot of their stories and novellas and novels were written during COVID. So, I mean, that's, if there could possibly, not saying there's a shining light, there could possibly be something, a lot of stories came out of that period. And I'm not talking about the cheesy, erotic COVID.
Those are so
garbage.
Stupid.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about like some good writing, good, good storytelling and all that stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cause for the most part, it was very like that whole time kind of nuked my creativity. So my output wasn't as strong as like, in kind of normal times, I guess. But the few stories that are in here were written around that time.
And you can see that in there because a lot of the characters or the sort of their surroundings are, they're watching the news and bad things are happening on the news with riots and sickness and stuff. So you can see that sort of our times now with what's going on kind of bleeding into the stories too.
Yeah, just being constantly exposed and kind of unable to escape that, like just like
Yeah.
that reality.
So, aside from COVID, what has changed from your last collection, Nightmares and Ecstasy, to this collection, as far as your style? Anything has changed as far as your style of writing, your approach to it? Do you think you've gotten better? Just a different kind of storytelling? Any major changes since your last one to this one?
Like I hope I got better, but I think for the most part, I'm a bit more mindful with like in my application of like horror,
Mhm.
and it's just I feel like when you're writing kind of transgressive material, like there's a sense of responsibility that goes with that.
Mhm.
You have to kind of be careful and tread carefully. So these stories had a lot more thought put into them
Okay.
than Nightmares and Ecstasy. Um, yeah, and I feel like they're more mature than like because Nightmares was written uh, in my 20s. I was I think 23 when I wrote the first story in there, and early 30s now. Um,
Mhm.
so there's
You've
a bit. I feel
matured.
like there's a bit more maturity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but your first one must have been pretty good because it won the Wonderland Award. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
And that was, you released that through Clash?
Yeah.
Or okay. I just want to make sure, 'cause this one's Weird Punk. I was going to ask you about your relationship with both places, but
Oh yeah, I still I'm hoping the next thing is potentially going to be a Clash book.
okay.
Nice.
So I've been working on something for them. Yeah.
Because I think you won it the year before or after Sam won it for Tual and Ash and Sorrow, right?
Yeah, we were back to back. That was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So it seems like you've been involved with Weird Punk over the years with the you helped with the Cronenberg tribute, right?
Y-
And now you're releasing through this. Like, how did that relationship kind of be? How did you get connected with Sam? Did you guys just know each other from before, or just through writing you got
Uh,
connected with him?
we met at BizarroCon. I forget. I think it was 2016. And the Cronenberg anthology actually had its root in our first meeting. We were drinking just the kind of at the common area where everyone hangs out, and it
Mhm.
just came up like, hey, there's no like Cronenberg themed anthologies, and we're just like, if you know what, if we ever decide to do it, we'll do it together. And then years later, he reached out. He's like, hey, you still like down to do this? And absolutely. So yeah, that was my first like kind of editorial experience with something like that, and it was a lot of fun, and really happy with the way it turned out.
Are you a
So
fanatic of Cronenberg like he is? Or
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That
okay,
was and I feel like you're talking about the changes from Nightmares to Pornography. It's I think Nightmares.
that's a title.
Yeah,
Nightmares.
there. That's the threequel.
Yeah.
This,
combine the two together.
yeah, yeah. I think like the first collection is like there's elements of like it kind of borders sometimes on homage to Cronenberg.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because I really identified with body horror kind of in my formative years of getting into the genre. It just really spoke to me in ways that other kind of other subgenres didn't necessarily. But yeah, so I think like I owe a lot of like kind of you know gratitude, I guess, to Cronenberg and just for his inspirations.
I think that's a good description of Weird Punk books overall. It's like transgressive body horror, because a lot of their stuff involves, of course, it's transgressive fiction, along with a lot of their stuff has body horror. So I don't
Oh
know if
yeah,
that's what draws me to it or what, but yeah, I've noticed that a lot actually.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It's the perfect marriage.
yeah.
Did you have any other influences for this one? You said the first one was sort of Cronenberg-ish inspired. Did you have any different influences for Pornography?
This one, there's a couple that stand out. So, uh, I think it was early COVID days. I watched. There was a friend of mine who grew up in England, and he mentioned this movie called Threads, and he saw it on TV as a kid, and it fucked him up. So I was like, okay. And I'm like, wait, it's a TV movie? Like, how is it bad?
Yeah.
So I watched it, and this movie's about it's a steel mill town in England that gets nuked by the Russians or the Soviet Union, and it just
Mhm.
follows sort of like the moment when the bomb drops, and like the kind of repercussions of that, and then I think it goes 20 years into the future, and basically how this part of the country just returns to like the Middle Ages because like this event, and it's horrific. And like I watched it at the worst possible time, and yeah, and that was one of the just deeply affected me, and I think that's one of the other kind of direct influences.
I can see that influence without having seen the movie. I can see that in the story, especially the first one.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. That movie's really rough. And like, I mean, like over the years I've become more kind of sensitive to extreme stuff, because before my like 20s and stuff, like early 20s, I could sit through like, you know, really messed up things and I wouldn't bat an eye, but I'm a bit more receptive to it now. And so yeah, I was in a funk for at least a day after watching that one.
So I've only read one Clive Barker book, so I'm not too experienced on him, but I felt like this very much felt like sort of Clive Barker-esque material.
Yeah, he's another major influence. Like there's, you know, it's always like so humbling, like when someone compares you, like, you know, Nightmares or something to Books of Blood, because that Books of Blood I think are like my favorite. Like I have to pick up favorite collection overall. You just kind of you know, I like his approach to kind of violence and sexuality. Everything has sort of this aesthetic to it. You know, he infuses a beauty into something that really shouldn't be beautiful, and that's something I think I do at some level with my own writing.
Yeah, just I can't think of a better word, just the strangeness of your stories feels like sort of the strangeness of what he captures as well. I could see that sort of marrying together those different aspects of it.
Yeah, because I like to think with my stories, like they don't really, you know, they're set in sort of like this wonky kind of side reality where it's not quite our world. It's like this kind of slightly kind of nightmarish version of it.
And no matter like how screwed up it is, I mean, there's some sort of underlying beauty that's you could find in it. That's the way I look at Clive Barker, and that's the way I was finding some of these stories to be. That, you know, no matter how screwed up, like even the first one, you know, it seems like it's the end of the world, but then there's this love between these two. That you have to, you know, the way it starts off freaks me the freak out. I mean, that's just. I don't want to, you know, give it away.
I like that it was sort of told in reverse. Like you get the ending and then it goes backwards. I like that a lot.
Because I think that one was like arguably maybe the most personal.
Okay.
But when you do something like that and it doesn't do what it's supposed to, but yet it leaves you kind of late. Never mind.
Yeah.
we won't get too far into it because I mean people have to read it themselves. And
that one, the first one might be my favorite story. I really like that one a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, it's one of mine as well. Yeah.
So without being too intrusive, you said it was sort of personal for you for that first story.
So I remember there's a very specific event. I was walking with my partner at the time, and I just, I think I was tired or something, and I just like momentarily disassociated, and everything felt really like off. And this idea of this guy like getting premonitions and just, you know, in his like just being kind of consumed by them. That was sort of the idea. I just wanted to write something that it wasn't like bombastically like an apocalyptic thing, but it was like it was sort of a pall over everything. It was happening constantly in the dude's head. And it's I think that's scarier. Like the fact that it's, you know, it's mostly a mental experience.
Yeah, there's a part. Again, I won't give it away, but there was a part where it was like, okay, so this dude just like having a bad trip, or what's really happening, you know? Because I got to a point where I was like, okay, this dude's on acid. You know? That's not really happening, but it was a good tie together at the end. So
yeah,
and even at one point, the guy he sort of physically can feel or see, you know, that presence over top of him, that sort of just, you know, horrible presence, and making him feel those things. So I like how that tied in, like, because you said you sort of felt that way, but you took it a step further in the story.
Yeah, because, you know, without, you know, getting too personal, like I've experienced like health problems most of my life, and I think that's kind of where my fascination with body horror and sort of aberrant psychology comes from. For me, just body horror is more intimate. It's, you know, as opposed to like an external force, like a, you know, like a monster or ghost or whatever. It's inescapable. And that's really kind of speaks to me, and I try to tap into that.
Because everybody can relate to body horror, because you know we all have bodies, so something can happen to us in some grotesque.
We all have
you know,
bodies. You heard it.
Yeah,
First.
I mean, that's real though. Like people might not be able to relate to vampires or werewolves or, you know, some cosmic horror, but body horror, like everyone can have that sensation of, oh, please don't cut my hand off, or please don't poke my eyeball out, or, you know, whatever.
There you go with your eyeballs.
Yeah.
Eyeballs. There was no. I don't think there. Well, there was a little bit, but not like you didn't focus on it. There was no eyeball horror in here.
Oh yeah, and I know that bugs a lot of people. Like,
It does.
I'm just
I
thinking
don't
like
like
the
it.
scene in
He's
Zombie
gonna do
2.
a whole new collection of nothing but eyeball.
Just eyeball horror.
Yeah.
That's what's next. So, do you find do you think you're going to continue this style for your future writings? Stay with the body horror, stay with these kind of themes, or are we going to get all of a sudden like a
splatter western
romance out of nowhere? You know, like
I don't know about
space
romance.
erotica, Jay. You missed your chance.
Yeah,
Space
space
erotica.
Yeah, that's an untapped niche.
It is.
But the next thing, like there is, I think each book, like they kind of piggyback off one another, but there's an evolution. But the next one, there are kind of very selective moments of body horror, but it's more psychological, and because I think, like, yeah, obviously, like as you grow, your fears change, and I think like I very much like, because I value like honesty in fiction. Like everything I write needs to, like, as weird as it is, needs to come from a place of honesty, and especially when you're applying fear to that. So like a lot of the stuff in here is like something like I, you know, have anxieties about or whatnot, and the next one too is very much that. But you know, being like an uncle now and stuff, that very much informed this book. So there is, I'm sort of my stuff is changing, but
there's nothing more scary than real life, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
I can see putting all that together and putting all that in writing for people. So
yeah, become a parent or an uncle or an aunt or grandparent or whatever, that just all new fears open up once you've hit those certain sort of life milestones, I guess you can call them.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's why it's always gonna, you know, as long as you know, I continue to develop, hopefully, like the horror will kind of change, but there will always be like you know, that fingerprint, hopefully, because I think I've developed sort of a bit of like a style and
just really gnarly, nasty stuff you like to write about.
Yeah.
Lots of bodily fluids and blood, and
it's weird because like I never sit down and I'm like, I'm gonna write the most fucked up, gross thing I can think of. It's just like, I don't know. It's just my imagination works that way, and I like to, in my mind, these are like metaphors. Like it's a kind of colorful way of like putting, like trying to tackle like an issue or something. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Like it's graphic at times, but I don't feel like you ever go to like the extreme extent of it.
Right? Yeah, you don't cross an extreme line.
No. Yeah, because I feel that's with the like going back to the whole honesty thing. Because like my intent, like as shocking as some of them can be, it's not the intention behind it. Yeah, it's just like the violence and stuff is like a vehicle for whatever I'm talking about in that specific story.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to stick with just short stories, or are we going to see like a novella out of you or a novel down
the next thing is a novella.
Okay.
Nice.
And so I've been like, I got really comfortable with shorts. And that's one thing, because like I can write a short story in a single draft mostly. Longer work, like the one I'm working on now is on its 5th draft, and I mean, like I'll write a draft and just set it aside and completely write it again without even referring to the. So I'm really hard on myself with longer.
So you actually change it, like?
Oh yeah, sometimes it's like some stuff carries over as I move from draft to draft, but for the most part, it's complete reset, and it's almost like I'm working through the story. And there's always a moment, even with shorts, like a short is usually born through two separate ideas that don't really seem to connect, and then once they do, the idea kind of coalesces, and I'm able to write it. And that finally happened with this book I'm working on now, where these two ideas collided, and it just feels right. And
that seems crazy to basically start over every time. That's insane.
yeah,
Well, I
I
mean,
don't know. I
way to
get a
call
lot
a
of
guest
shit for that.
crazy there, Brad, but still.
Hey, at least I said his name, Jay.
But doing it that way, though, I mean, that seems like it's going to like keep putting it off and putting it off. You know, or who says you're not going to do it 10 more times? Are we ever
No,
going to see this
exactly.
novella? You know,
Yeah.
who says you're not going to do it 15 more times? You've done it 5 times already.
Yeah.
So-
No, I think I'm getting better. I'm learning. I think it's just I'm learning to write longer form fiction, and I think that's part of the process. Yeah, because the draft amount is shrinking. Like I've worked on novels that are just like absolute trash that have been like 8 drafts, and one of them was like 600 pages long, and it's never going to see the light of day. So,
So 600 times 8, whatever, however many that is, that's crazy.
yeah, those years of work that just went nowhere.
600. Wow, that's 6 novellas. Okay,
Yeah.
let's break it down.
Yeah,
Let's make that like a serial. Let's do that.
That's like Dick
So,
and
like-
Jug and
Like on the one you're working on now, like from draft 1 to draft 5, are they drastically different as far as the story itself?
the themes and the characters and stuff pretty much stay the same. It's just sort of motivations change a bit. A lot of the set pieces are the same. It's really subtle things that just the tone kind of shifts. It's just because there's a lot going on, and it's a matter of kind of getting everything together in a way that makes sense. Because with a short story, it's very much like, you know, you have a goal at the end of it, and you work your way through to that point, and it's done. And I'm not a fan of like explaining the nature of the horror. So that was another thing I had to figure out with longer stuff, was like, how do I, you know, take the same approach I do to my short stories, but in a longer form without over explaining and kind of ruining it like that, you know?
Yeah, because in these short stories, you don't explain. You're thrown in, and this is what's going on, and this is the people in the scenario, and you just hit the floor running.
Yeah, I like that kind of disconnect, like the surreal aspect of it, and it's a little harder to maintain in a longer work.
Yeah, that sounds like a challenge, because I mean, you're taking, you might have the story that could be a short story, but now you have to expand on certain parts, you know, to make it fuller, you know. So yeah, so we're looking at 2026 for that, or...
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, like I mean, so next year, it's been announced. So I think I can say it, but like Nightmares and Ecstasy is being translated into Spanish.
That's cool.
And I think hopefully like the year after that will be the next book.
Is this the one that's with Clash, the novella?
Yeah, because it's been kind of just COVID kind of derailed it for a bit, but that'll hopefully happen soon.
Nice.
So when you're going through these drafts, do you self-edit along the way, or do you finish your draft and start on the new one and not worry about doing any editing or anything?
So usually everything first draft is written by hand. And I shot myself in the foot many times with that. Like I remember one of the drafts of the book for Clash, Christoph Paul, one of the editors, he was like, "Hey, like I want it by this day or whatever." And I realized I'm like, "Fuck, I didn't type this out." So I spent
just mailing the draft.
Oh man, it was like torture.
Here's a few napkins. Make sure everything stays in order. You know, you wrote little parts down.
Yeah, it's bad, and I'm learning like I've learned that it's okay with a short story, but it's not practical with a novella or a novel.
My problem would be I can't read what I've written here. I have no idea. My handwriting
is atrocious too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think you're the first one that's told us that they handwrite their first draft. I think I've heard other people are seeing other people mention that they do that, and it's just mind-boggling because like I have no clue what I write down sometimes.
Oh yeah,
I do the whole looking over here, writing over here kind of thing, you know, and like
you're going sideways up the
it's like does that look like a T or a W? And they can't be farther apart. So
I feel like Max Booth said he hand wrote something when he was on. I can't remember what it was.
Is that who it was?
Oh okay.
Somebody I know other people have. So
did he handwrite maggot screaming while he was filming his movie. Maybe
Did he
So he was
handwrite
right.
that?
I don't know because I remember he said he was writing it in the editing room, so he might have handwritten part of that. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on
That's
that.
freaking long to be handwriting that.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I think part of the appeal. Hey, Sam's here. Yeah, part
so
of
we
the
got
appeal.
we got to quit talking about Sam. He
I know.
showed up.
Yeah.
The
Part
whole
of the
first
appeal of
half
writing
hour
by
was about
hand.
Sam.
Yeah, just talking shit on Sam the whole time.
Yeah.
He'll go back and watch it.
Yeah, all the shit we're talking. Yeah, like the part I think like writing by hand for shorts and stuff. It's because like I don't have like a routine and like I work a full-time job, so there's just something like cool about tucking it in your pocket and like sneaking stuff in like whenever you can, like on the paper. But yeah, I think that's because I hopefully none of my coworkers are listening, but I used to like really.
Yeah, I used to do it at work, but not
Yeah, I
anymore.
used to. Yeah, like I would.
I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, I remember writing short stories in class in grade school that way. So I guess that's the
Well,
beginning.
computers
of things,
didn't
right?
exist back then, Joe. You had no
I know.
choice.
Okay. Gosh, yeah. I guess I set myself up for that one.
So,
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a more intimate experience to handwriting it out as opposed to typing it.
It would. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's probably another reason why like I can like hammer out a story in one draft because like I'll write it out, edit as I go, and edit again when I type it, and then do another sweep. So technically doing like 3 rounds of edits just through the process of translating it over to like Word.
Still.
Yeah.
That's just too much, especially like if it's like a novel or something.
So. Oh yeah, no, it's not practical.
So do you foresee yourself getting to a novel length story sometime eventually?
Yeah, I have a few ideas that could fit that mode. Yeah, it's just a matter of picking the right one and starting. Because that's another thing. It's just like there's ideas that have been floating around in my head for like 10 years, and it's just like same with this next one. Like this, I think I came up with a very kind of almost like fetal version of like the story when I was like 17, and then it just developed into what it is now. So I tend to carry ideas for a long time. I think that might be pretty normal for writers, but
how often do you get new ones while you're in the middle of another project, though? And do you feel like you have to finish that first project in order before you start on the next one?
Yeah, generally, like I can only focus on one thing at a time. The idea flow is not as like intense as it was like years ago. It's kind of slowed down a bit, but I do, I'll occasionally like it's every few months like something will pop in my head. And also like, the more you read and the more films you watch, like everything kind of combines in your head, and then ideas are formed that way.
Well, do you want to do reading now, or do you want to draw a name? What should we do, Brad?
We gotta make people wait. Make them watch
you want
longer.
to draw a name? You want to draw a name later?
Yeah.
A little bit later. Let's do a
You
reading.
wanna read
do
something?
Let's read some porn.
Sure, yeah.
That just sounds weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's reading it for the articles, guys. Come on.
Yeah, it's my documentaries. So I'll read from Pornography for the End of the World. It's a shorter one called Mother's Mark.
I knew you was gonna read that one. When you said it was a short one, that I noticed that was the shortest one in there. So.
Yeah, it's just like a page and a half. In the middle of the night, the fissure on her apartment wall bulged and disgorged a man encased in an amniotic sheath. He struck the decaying floorboards with a pulpy crack, white fluid pooling around his huddled form. The woman crouching in the corner of the room, impatient for this moment, stood up and approached him. The sensory organs on her face danced in response to this new and intriguing stimulus. Already she could feel herself growing wet with desire. Hopefully her latest experiment would yield positive results. Rolling up her sleeves of her satin robe, she used one fingernail to slice an opening in the amniotic sac. Clear liquid gushed out, washing over the ruptured sheath and diluting the white substance already spread across the floor. The woman reached inside. Nutrient sacs and capillaries tangled in her fingers as she probed for the man's forearm, gripped it and pulled. The mother's mark, wrapped like a living tattoo around her upper arm and shoulder, glowed a faint orange in the gloom. Its blessing coursed through her muscle fibers, imbuing her with the strength necessary to lift the man to his feet and hold him in a clumsy standing position. His legs were unsteady, their musculature hardening and springing into shape as she watched. He was a handsome specimen, 2 fingers above 6 feet and broad in the shoulders. His body and head were devoid of hair or follicles. His mouth was lipless and filled with long, narrow teeth designed for sexual biting. The woman also outfitted his skull with biological accessories intended to enhance pleasure: lubricating orifices, an organic vibrating module, and pores that excreted a sensation heightening gel. The woman held his shoulders, looked up into his face. He certainly looked better than her previous efforts, but the true test lay in his functionality and abilities. She glanced around the room to ensure she was alone. It was cluttered with broken and dirty laboratory equipment. The apartment's electricity was being funneled into a massive chest freezer that hummed like something alive. Inside were the pieces of organic matter and she intended to recycle from failed experiments. She had eaten the rest, roasting the flesh over a propane stove. The 4 corners of the bachelor were occupied by birthing nodules the woman had recovered from the street, where they had fallen from the sky-bound body of the Great Mother. They had long since metastasized into the building itself, allowing her experiments to transition from wet dream to reality. Her senses honed on the single blacked-out window. Beyond was the city with its rivers of flesh and the Great Mother watching from above. As always, the woman would have to ensure her experiments remained a secret. The Great Mother had eradicated the male species for a reason, and any attempt to reconstruct or resurrect their kind was punishable by death. She passed a hand over the man's face, her sensory organs droning a reverse lullaby. The man shuddered violently, breath surging into his body. Mere seconds elapsed as he acclimated to his environment, and then he was upon her, grasping her waist with sinewy hands and pressing his mouth against her neck. The woman moaned softly, curling her fingers around his bicep and tilting her head back to encourage his advances. His teeth pinched her flesh and pulled, sending a white-hot streak of pain through her nerve endings. A little too hard, she noted, but that could be easily adjusted. Then he spun her around, tearing the robe away in a flash of gleaming crimson, and squeezed her breasts. Hot, pheromone-laced breath panted against her neck. His cock, 8 inches long and studded with fat deposits to increase pleasure, rubbed against the cleft of her ass. She tried to loosen his grip on her, but he only tightened his hold so she could barely move. Memories of past failed experiments flooded her mind. Not again, she thought. Why couldn't she breathe the primal aggression from her subjects? Was it so firmly rooted in their sexual identities? Not for the first time, the woman wondered if this violence was the reason the Great Mother had purged them from existence. The mother's mark flared a bright orange. The woman effortlessly pulled herself away from the man, spun around, gripped the sides of his head, and decapitated him with a casual upward motion of her hands. Blood pumped from the ragged hole in his neck, and his body collapsed, twitching to the floor. She tossed the head into a corner of her room and looked down. A thick stream of seminal fluid trailed away from his softening erection. The woman hummed disappointment. Another failure, but at least she would have something to eat tonight.
Damn. That's just one of the stories that someone is going to win tonight in this collection of stories. That's like a Penthouse Forum meets like extreme snuff film or something.
Yeah, H.R. Geiger's.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
All those body fluids, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Fluids.
A lot of fluids, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like creating these monsters or creatures or whatever? Because you have, I don't know if in every story, but in almost every story, you have some type of entity or creature or something. Do you like to create those kind of things? Is it fun to do that?
Yeah, I love, like, ever since I was a kid, I've loved monsters.
And, nice reaction there, Crystal.
Yeah, I've loved monsters, and it's just like, it's super fun to be able to, like, I like kind of challenging myself and doing something really unconventional with kind of like their design, basically. The weirder the better. And yeah, this one, it's been a while since I wrote this one. I was reading it over and I was like, oh shit, I forgot about these birthing nodules and all that. But
like, it's very alienistic, if that's even a word, like, you know, these pods and stuff like that, and the river of flesh is very Clive Barker-esque.
Yeah, I like that, the kind of the juxtaposition between, like, you know, she's in an apartment, like, so it's very much like, you know, there's the kind of a human aspect, but it's just invaded by this
Mhm.
kind of outside force. And I just like that in my stories, like having kind of mundane reality rubbing against something like ultra strange.
Yeah, there's without telling what there's a story with a tower in it, and the tower's actually not a physical building. It's made out of human flesh once the person gets closer to it. So stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I just like, yeah, there's a weird kind of like almost like artistry to some of these like
Mhm.
grotesque things.
What was your last collection? And again, I haven't read the last collection yet, but was it as graphic and artsy, or just more like
Uh,
I knew you said you got a little bit, you developed a little bit more over the years, but was that one of the big changes, or was it identical? Was it still artsy and graphic like this one?
yeah, I think it's. I would argue that one was more graphic. Um,
Okay,
yeah, just because of its overt approach to sex, because it was just a lot about relationships and sex, and
okay.
Mm.
Do you have any extra like outtakes from these two past collections to just to make the cut, and you're working on? Or we want
uh,
to see like the B sides. It's like Brendan Vidito B sides, the ones that didn't make the first two.
Pornography from the back room.
Yeah,
yeah, a dad's
through the double
dad's
doors.
Yeah.
dad's pornography, like under the bed. Uh, awesome. uh, but yeah, a lot of them. I think there's only a handful of stories like that aren't in here. Like there's one coming out, Stories of the Eye through Weird Punk, that was edited by Sam, Richard, and Joe Koch.
Mhm.
There's one coming out in that that was originally like it was just sort of, it did line up.
Okay.
And there's a couple that like I'm still working on that I haven't cracked yet, but didn't fit the theme. So I just kind of left them aside.
What is there anything for your stories that you feel like would for yourself that would be too far, that you would not go to that and write about those certain topics or anything?
I think I need a really good reason.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like there's certain like I wouldn't just, yeah, like I said earlier, like I wouldn't just write something to be shocking. Like I have a really good reason. I think like
That's good.
I also like the more sensitive the subject matter, if you can approach it in sort of like at a remove, like have it more in the background than actually like
Right.
really showing it like right in your face kind of thing. Because a
Mhm.
lot of these things is gross and stuff, and it's the body, but it's not, it doesn't go. Yeah, there's nothing like, I don't know, like outwardly offensive. Like I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I like the approach to it. I mean, I appreciate that a lot because I've said before in the past, like you could tell when someone is trying to be grotesque and extreme just for the purpose of being extreme and trying to shock and one up themselves. But you have something like this where it's there, the shock is there, and the gruesome grotesque stuff is there, but there's a different approach to it. You
Mhm.
might take a detour to get to it, and there's a reason behind everything, and then it kind of ties itself together instead of just putting guts and gore, all of it, for no real meaning to it. So I can totally appreciate the artsy approach to it in this way.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, that's how I just like. There's always got to be like a reason, and
Right.
yeah, because everything is just like almost like there's a core to the stories that are just happen to be wrapped up in this like really nasty kind of like viscera and this coating, and um, like there's themes in the next work that are really heavy that I was almost reluctant to even like touch.
Mhm.
And I think that was the other reason why it's taking a while to develop, because it's like I'm putting a lot of thought into how I approach this, and I don't want to fuck it up and like do it in a way
Yeah.
that's insensitive.
Yeah. Are you allowed to tease at all about what the other one's about just a little bit
Yeah,
without giving anything away?
I'll just like, because this happens in the first pages of the book, but the whole thing revolves around a mass shooting.
Okay.
That's sort of the inciting incident, sort of the thing that reverberates through the whole story.
Mhm.
And it was just like it was hard to write because like it was just every time I'd sit down and then you'd see the news and it would be something else like that.
Right.
So it's like just doing that in a way that felt.
Well, I mean, again, it goes back to the real life, like I mentioned earlier. That's the real horror. The real life is the real horror stuff, and that's what you're
Exactly, yeah.
seeing constantly this day and age. So,
Mm.
yeah.
With that being something so frequent that happens, did you ever feel like maybe I shouldn't touch this? Maybe I should change it to or write something different instead?
Yeah, and that was, part of the struggle that this book was going through, was just like, identity crisis, and like it was a step forward for me because I wanted to really kind of hone into these things that really bothered me and do it in a
Mhm.
way that, kind of take my approach to it. Um, so there's a lot of back and forth with, wrestling with whether I should even touch this or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm approaching it in a way that feels valid and not like I'm not exploitative in any way.
Mhm.
And that was
Not that this
important.
sh not that this should have any bearing on, your art or what you wanna write about, but do you fear any sort of backlash for writing something kinda like that at all?
Oh, I fear that all the time because like I just like that's because it's really not my intention at all.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I just put so much thought in, like, into the stories, and I don't want, like, even with the shorts, like I don't want anything to kind of bounce back and like someone to get offended or anything. And it'll happen, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
Somebody's going to find fault with it
There's
somewhere.
worms
Yeah.
on the cover. I hate worms.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's fine.
0
Like, I mean,
stars.
I'm ready for it, and like it's part of writing horror, I think.
Mhm.
And I think I just comforted in the notion that, like, yeah, like these stories, like I put some thought into them, and they're coming from a place of honesty.
You're not just slapping them together to go shock somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it? What I think Lansdale said, "If you're not offending somebody, you're not doing it right." He said something
Yeah,
along those lines.
that is a good quote. Yeah, because the stuff, I think there's like, there's being offensive in a way that, like, it kind of challenges your preconceptions.
Mhm.
And then there's just being offensive because, like, it's not, it's tasteless. And
Yeah. Offensive just for the sake of being offensive. There's a difference.
absolutely, yeah.
So how long did it take for you to get comfortable with your own style, or are you still trying to find your proper style? Because I mean, I can see your style through these stories and what we've talked about tonight. Are you comfortable with that now, or are you still tweaking things and trying to find the right place to go?
Um, yeah, I think like there's a style I'm comfortable with. Like, a lot of these are written like third person past tense. And there's just like a kind of a rhythm I find within those limitations. Um, but yeah, like I like experimenting with different tenses and stuff.
Mhm.
I didn't do it so much in this one, but like Nightmares and like other works, but yeah, I feel like it's constantly evolving, but there's always, like, I'm noticing there is a thread that's going, like, carrying through no matter what approach I take. So, like, I feel like there is a style that's emerging, and there is a comfort in that because I can ride it and let the story write itself.
You have something you can always pull from that kind of voice, basically. Yeah, or always have a something you could pull, create a story from that feel that you have for these kind of stories. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. There's I've developed, and I think like this, some would probably argue this is dangerous, but like like a comfort in my style,
yeah,
and so, and that is one thing I'm deadly afraid of, is like I don't want to descend into self parody, because the nature of what I write is really
Uh-huh.
kind of indicative of that. Like, that's very much a possibility. So that's why I think it's important, like, just moving forward, to constantly kind of like evolve and incorporate different ideas, just so I don't end up writing like like the spoof version of of what I've been writing for the past few years.
yeah,
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at Chad.
Oh.
yeah. I saw the same thing.
Jay,
The whole
you
point
might
was trying to make this trippy. So
you might start seeing worms and stuff, Jay, if you lick that wall behind you.
Yeah.
look, Chad, it's the end of the world. Okay, so that's okay.
do
Chad
you
Lutsky's a cannibal. So
I don't think he liked that review. You posted it, he was like, "Thanks." So, like, he didn't really do like LOL or smiley face
Like,
or nothing.
there was no LOL after that or anything. No, it was just, yeah. I did a review for Chad's cannibal book, and it was
Creator.
more like a news report saying that Chad Lutsky is a cannibal, and yeah,
They were all his
Like,
real
it's
life
shared around
experiences
out
that
of
he put into
context.
fiction. Yeah. There's no context to it though. Like, he didn't say, "I'm joking" at the end or nothing. He just cut the video off.
He's
I'm
a
done.
straight up cannibal.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I haven't heard
in your
from him since.
do you have a favorite story in the collection, or is it too hard to say that? Like picking a favorite kid.
I don't know. Like I really like the first one, Walking in Ash, or because just the kind of intimacy of that story, and also I really like the last one. Um,
Hmm.
oh my god, I'm blanking on the name of my own story right now.
The
The
the snuff film one,
Yeah,
Nostalgia Night
Nostalgia
at the
Night
Snuff
at the
Palace.
Snuff Palace. Yeah, just because like that was written in like a really dark time, and I have very little memory of actually sitting down and writing it. Um,
Okay,
and it
that
was
makes sense for what the story is too, kind of.
yeah, and I remember I got edits back for it, and I was like, I had to reread it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like, and I think it's one of the more like just kind of nastier stories I've written. But there's also like this really uncomfortable uh like beauty to it. I don't know, like I just because yeah, without giving too much away, it's just like you know the world is like in like such disarray. Like the only way these characters can like uh, feel like kind of any like positive nostalgia is like through watching snuff films and like finding like, oh, like that room looks familiar, or like that tree, I've seen those trees before, and it's
Hmm.
just really sad. uh,
It is. That was a good story. I like that. Was that the longest one in there? Probably
I think so. Yeah, that was like I think eight close to like 9,000 words or something like that.
because there's some camaraderie and friendship in there. With this group of I guess travelers or whatever they are, the survivors headed towards this movie theater, and then just stuff like all the stories, stuff goes bad for them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I really like on the topic of like creatures and stuff. I think though that story is my favorite, kind of monster and all like these things called the Carolith. They're like living
Yeah.
cylindrical shaped rocks,
Uh-huh.
and that was the challenge. I'm like, I wanted to do something like just so weird and like innocuous, but like have it really menacing,
And
and
you
it
tied like
also
tech. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
oh no worries. Yeah, and it's just that one has its roots in. So I had my appendix taken out when I was in like 11 or something, and
Hmm.
I don't react well to morphine, and I started hallucinating, and I vaguely remember this, but
That
my
explains a lot, then, right?
yeah, yeah, my parents said, and they're like, you suddenly you're sitting in your bed, and suddenly your eyes just pop, and like you're pointing to the foot of the bed, and you're like, there's a rock at the end of the bed. And I remember like just I have this vague memory of this really sinister looking black kind of cylindrical shaped
Just
rock.
monolith kind of thing.
Yeah, 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 basically. And so I wanted to use that. I always knew like I'm like I just need to find the right story to like use this like evil rock basically. And
They're much more menacing than it sounds. They're much more than just an evil rock.
yeah.
I like how you incorporate technology into that as well. That sort of the device that they use to do what they do without saying too much.
Yeah, yeah, and like that's another thing too. Like technology without explaining how it works. I think like
Uh-huh.
that's. I mean, obviously it's not sci-fi, so but yeah, I like that too. The mystery of like how something actually operates.
And just like the weird stuff like that, like the rock, that just so much like Clive Barker, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, totally.
Are there any stories in this collection that you could see like a continuation, or maybe expand them into something longer for a future novella?
Uh, I think the first and the last one have potential.
Hmm.
I Yeah, because one of the early reviews of this one, they wanted to see like the last story like broaden into like a whole work, and like I've definitely thought of it, and it's
But by
just
the
like
time you rewrite it and you do your 23
yeah, it's gonna
draft,
be like
so it's gonna be something
2031.
totally
Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be something totally
yeah.
different. So
Yeah, because that one you could go back to, how it all started. Because you start and they're in it and they're, it's who knows how long it's been going on and stuff. At least long enough where they don't really remember the good times.
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like there's definitely like uh, you know, there's a broader world there that could be explored.
Hmm.
So and maybe eventually that'll happen.
And with the first story, you could do, what happened with that one, or different perspectives of the same events with different people.
Yeah, I feel like that one actually like I just like the kind of as like a psychological portrait. I think that could be done kind of longer and more detailed, like just like an examination of the relationship, and
Hmm.
yeah, just a more meticulous approach to like how this premonitions develop. And
Like that, it's a really small, intimate story, but I'd like to see either more before or after of the Church of the Chronically Ill. I think that'd be a fun story to elaborate on.
yeah.
oh yeah, like that's probably one of the more grounded ones. There's no, supernatural or thanks, Chad. Yeah,
That
yeah,
that one's all just straight up like real life. There's nothing crazy in that one at all.
yeah, it's just, I just really wanted to write something that was absolutely grounded, and more sinister and kind of, off camera, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, that one's pulled sort of like it got cult vibes, like drinking the purple Kool-Aid kind of stuff from that one.
Yeah, and I think
I like the purple Kool-Aid.
yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I can't stand any kind of purple stuff.
Oh,
but yeah, like the cult thing that I was writing that at the same time I was writing this book I'm working on currently, and there's also like cult elements in that one. But it's all like because the whole idea of like cults, it's like it's just been done so often
to death.
Yeah, and it's kind of finding ways. Kind of moving it into like a more modern context and seeing what that would look like, or even
you got to find the right spin for it. So
it was a very different take on cults, like why everyone is together for the reason they are. Because normally it's more of a religious thing for the most part, but this was they're all together because they all have some kind of chronic illness.
Yeah, and I think like the root of that idea, because like like I was diagnosed with a chronic illness when I was 15, and like someone had told me, forget who it was, but like, like sick people tend to be more creative, and I thought that was kind of messed up. And you don't need kind of illness or whatever to kind of preempt creativity. Like I'm sure like it can help with inspiration and stuff, but I thought that was kind of weird, and like that sort of stuck with me, and I applied that in this sense.
And it's still, even though there's no cosmic stuff, or it's very much a more grounded story, it still fits within the theme of the end of the world, because it's this kind of cult. It seems like end of the world kind of stuff that they're kind of doing there.
Yeah, and just like they found their own little kind of comfort, the demented kind of comfort space within,
their little niche in society.
Yeah, as twisted as it is, yeah.
We gotta give it away. Let's give it away. Let's do it. I want to get into. I got a couple of odds and ends questions.
Do you want to talk about porno and Godzilla masks? Is that what you want to do?
Yes, but
I'm excited.
We were doing a little bit of giveaway on that Twitter machine there. These are the people now, according to Brad. I didn't go back and look. These are the people who followed directions. Okay. What were the directions? You had to retweet it. You had to like it.
Follow us and comment.
You had to give us a book that you wanted to read before the end of the world. That was the clean version. My version was to give us your favorite porn. But
I actually have an answer to that too.
I mean, I would have went with favorite porn star, because there's the age range on Twitter. And
what about your favorite type, your favorite genre?
Yeah. I mean, that could have really blown up. Really, I mean. I had things in my head, but okay, we were trying to keep it
at least somewhat PG-13.
Yeah,
if you want, Brad, always hold me back. So these are the people who follow directions, right?
It's got to be family friendly, Jay.
So if you did follow directions, that's why you don't see your name up there. So maybe you didn't leave the book, or maybe you didn't retweet it, or maybe we know you didn't like the comment. You probably didn't follow us either. So
it's okay. All right, go spin the wheel. We'll see. Hopefully this will work. Can y'all see it okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's spin it and see what happens.
It's the end of
I put Jay's name in there so we can
know it. No clue who that is.
I put their Twitter name so we could do it on Twitter, because if I just put their name, I wouldn't be able to find them again. So if you are watching,
we have to now go over on Twitter to.
Let me find her name here.
I'm not Twitter friendly. That's like 3 names in one.
Renee Elizabeth. Yeah.
She's down here near the end, I remember.
Oh, I was going with Renee, Lisa, Beth.
Oh yeah.
I guess your way is right. Your way is right. So
her name is Ren Elizabeth.
Oh, okay. That's it. Okay. Gotcha.
So if you're watching, and if not, we'll put it on Twitter. I'll put it on Twitter tomorrow who won. But if you're watching, you can email us.
I just did this because I saw her location, and it's not.
He's in the United States. Oh, is that
Yeah,
why
I
you
know, I
didn't?
was gonna say, yeah.
All right, so
Shipping is crazy out of the country.
Ren, Elizabeth, if you're watching, you can email us at the email address on the screen with your contact info, and Jay will get your book mailed out to you.
The quicker the better, because this was payday. So I mean, if you get me next weekend, I might have to wait another week. So
and if you're not watching,
if you get me this weekend, yeah. If you get me this weekend, I could probably get it out soon. But next weekend,
if you're not watching,
I'll have to wait a week.
I'll post it on Twitter in case you're not watching. She's probably not watching. She's probably not watching.
So pathetic, don't we? It's like I'll
please,
get it to you with my paydays, okay? But know what my payday is. So.
Jay, you're so stingy.
This is the actual copy. I've not broken the spine or anything.
You get your
pages aren't stuck together or anything.
They could.
Mine's over there, but I mean, if anybody's ever gotten anything from Weird Punk Books, you always get some swag inside too.
Nice.
There's the usual postcard, little cards
in there.
There's a bookmark in there. There might be a sticker. I'll have to see, but yeah. And I've not broken a spine yet on this.
And can I give a shout out? Did Ira Rat do the font on the front? Because
he did. Yeah, he designed the cover. Yeah.
He likes seeing his names in books.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's all about the font. He's like, I don't do much with the picture, but the font. The font. That was the whole spiral last time. Yeah.
He added a grain to it that really looked like added this kind of cinematic feel to it. And yeah, just like I think he played with the colors of it. And
yeah, that was him too. See, he's so humble. He was like, "Oh, I didn't really have much to do with it." So
yeah, oh yeah, super nice guy.
So,
right, so you got some inappropriate questions to ask? Is that what we're trying to do?
Were we going to do a game? Did we even set up a game, or did we?
We can do a lightning round if Brendan wants to.
Yeah,
sure.
Do you want to play a game real quick?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
I don't have any inappropriate questions.
Yeah, you do.
But I actually have an answer if you're interested in the favorite porn, and okay. it's not what you expect. So there's a porn filmmaker. His name's Steven Sayidian. He did Cafe Flesh is his famous, and it's a deconstruction of
what's it called again?
Cafe Flesh.
Cafe Flesh. Okay.
And it's set in the post-apocalypse. And this nuclear event basically rendered most people like unable to like have sexual activity. So they go to this place called the Cafe Flesh, and they watch these select few people who are still able to have sex, and it's so bizarre. Like all his movies are. Yeah, he did another one, Night Dreams. And without getting too graphic, there's a Jack in the Box scene, like a man-sized Jack in the Box with a long nose. And
okay,
yeah, is Jay looking this up?
Oh, Jack in a box. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think this is on the World Wide Web anymore.
You can't look that up while you're at work, Jay. It's not safe for work.
I was gonna say you got to.
Yeah, I think it was like early or late 80s, 89 maybe. But yeah, it's like you don't watch this movie like the way you watch porn. It's just it's just a movie that's happens to have sex in it, but it's really bizarre and kind of hilarious.
That was not at all the answer I was expecting. I was expecting like Big Booty Bitches 13 or something like that.
An underrated classic.
Yeah. Number 12 and 13, they're top notch.
Well, I mean, you could go some classics. What was Behind the Green Door? That's
Yeah, I actually haven't seen Marilyn Chambers. Yeah, she was in Cronenberg's Rabid. But I never saw Behind the Green Door.
I find it I shouldn't say funny. I find it weird when they leave the industry and then they bash the industry. And I think Marilyn Chambers is one of those that has done that.
There's a few that did that. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I
can say like now that they're out of the industry, like they're free to say whatever they want to say about
it. They can say whatever they want, but once they leave the industry, I mean,
like if they're still in it and they are bashing it, they're probably not going to get any more work.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a few that did that, and then like they realized, because I think there's been documentaries and stuff on the topic where it's like just difficult to like lead a normal life after you've done
Yeah.
porn. So a lot of people just kind of fall back into it.
We're after 9 o'clock, so we can go ahead and talk.
Yeah.
Boy, this conversation just changed, didn't
Do we
it?
need to put a banner up late night and paper cuts? Paper cuts after dark.
Yeah.
Boom, chicka bow wow. All right, let's do the game. You got a lightning round ready to go? Or
Yeah. What's our fancy budget? Where's it at?
this is what we
All right.
fall back on when we don't put together a specialized game.
All Jay's fault.
Yeah.
Jay, you got 60 seconds on the clock, Jay.
Oh,
Come on.
shoot,
now.
I gotta do that part,
Fucking-
don't I? Gosh.
Bless, Jay. Brendan, would you like to co-host this
I was
live show?
gonna say, Paper
YouTube
Cuts is
show
looking
with
for a
us?
new co-host.
Sure.
Wait, I gotta find my clock. There we go. Stopwatch. All right, ready?
Ready.
And go.
What would your weapon of choice be in the zombie apocalypse?
A samurai sword.
What's your favorite TV show of all time?
Twilight Zone.
What's your dream job?
A full-time writer.
What's the worst food you've ever eaten?
Oh, I forget the name of it. That fermented fish. I think it's a Norwegian thing.
Gefilte fish? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. It's the one in the can. It's
30
disgusting.
seconds.
It's all, yeah, it's
Yeah,
all,
fish in a can.
yeah.
We'll talk about it in a minute. What's your favorite horror movie?
The Thing.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh God. I think to read minds.
Ooh,
10 seconds.
Your celebrity crush.
Man, I don't think I have one actually.
Favorite band.
Mars Volta.
1. 60. We're good.
60 seconds. We'll finish out with one. If you could read one book before the end of the world, what would it be?
One book.
Sorry, you
book
can't
left.
win your book. You already have it. So
You can't read your own book.
I think I did think about this, and I think it's like it just goes back to like if you know the world's ending, you have one more book to read. You just go back to your childhood, and I probably reread The Lord of the Rings. To be honest.
Nice. The all three of them.
Yeah, I have a nice hardback with all of them in there.
Jay, what about you? What would you, if you could read one more book before the end of the world, what would it be?
my gosh.
Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings. Finally get that fantasy under your belt.
Well, I mean, if it depended on like I had to finish it before the world ended, so yeah, I would do like a super long one because I'm slow to begin with. So,
You're extending the end of the world. You can't.
Yeah.
The end of the world can't happen until you finished your book.
it's like the end of the world relies on when Jay gets done with this book, you know. But I hate fantasy, so it'd be like probably one of the 1,200 page Stephen King books or something, you know.
Yeah, like The Stand or something.
Yeah.
That's such a
Something
tough question.
like
I don't
that.
know. I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, because another one was like Ray Bradbury's October Country. That would be another choice for me.
That's one I haven't read. I haven't read much Bradbury. I read Something Wicked This Way Comes and Fahrenheit 451 and maybe one more.
Yeah, he's just like his short stories. I think that's where he's at his strongest.
If I had to pick one though, I'd honestly probably the new Stephen King, just because it's a simple answer. I think it comes out next month. Fairy Tale. I got to read that one before the end of
Is
the
that
world.
the fantasy one or
It's called Fairy Tale. Yeah,
okay?
Oh, is that out?
it comes out sometime next month, I believe.
Oh, cool.
So the world can't end until at least the book comes out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, Cormac McCarthy's got a couple coming out, so
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did.
we could get those and check those out.
I've
Which
only
you
read,
know, it's funny because one of them is on NetGalley. It shows up, and then you select it and says, "Sorry, this is not available yet." Like,
They
why are
took
you
it off.
telling me that? Yeah, why are you telling me it's there then?
I read Blood Meridian, and that was a lot of it just went over my head. I was like, I don't have any idea what it's talking about. Like it was
Yeah,
good. I enjoyed it. But I was like, I don't understand.
absolutely. I think that's my favorite McCarthy. But yeah, it is. It's really heavy and it's kind of laborious and
And then
hard to get through this whole
no
thing.
quotes and stuff. I was like, I don't know who's talking. I don't get what's going. It took me a while to get into the flow.
Yeah,
of, like,
his style,
the punctuation stuff.
The first time I
Yeah.
read The Road, I was like, I don't know what's happening.
The editor messed up big time. There's
I
no
know.
quotes
I
in
was
this
like,
book.
did I get like, is this an advanced copy? Did I get? It was like 2020. I'm reading it. like, is this advanced copy? There's no editing, you know.
Yeah, I find it's like I think I read Blood Meridian and then I listened to the audiobook, and that was really like it added some contextual, like it flowed really well. You're able to, like, you know, it was more performative, so that the lack of quotes didn't really matter at that point. But
like the judge was a great villain. That's his name, right? The judge.
yeah,
he's a great
basically
villain.
like a devil allegory. Yeah.
And then after I was done, I looked up all these like conspiracy theories about who the judge really is and all this kind of stuff. So that increased my enjoyment of the book. It's like, oh, that's cool. That makes more sense. But reading it, it was a little bit, for me, it was like, I don't understand.
Yeah. It's almost biblical the way it's written. Like
it is, yeah. Do you like his type of violence is very different? Do you try to emulate any other authors like that with the way you portray violence in your stuff? Because yours is very, you know, kind of straight, like we talked about earlier. It's not extreme, but you're straight to the point, and you know, you just sort of go for it.
Yeah, I don't feel like you should like varnish violence. Like, even it like film is just kind of an easier way to talk about it. Like, it really kind of pisses me off when, like, you know, someone gets the shit kicked out of them in the movie, and then like they have a bit of blood coming out of their nose.
Yeah, they get right back up.
Yeah, and like I think like there's a lot of characters like that I write about like sustain injuries or like you know, like something like even a small thing will happen and like they're pretty much like impaired. And I like that. It's like adds to the sense of like, because like isolation is a big element in horror, but like when you can bring that to the character, like where, you know, it's difficult for them to kind of get around. And there's one in here. Oh my God, I'm referring to the hold on a second here. The human clay.
Okay.
So that one, he's basically
that one's such a weird story.
Yeah, and I just like you know, he was dependent, like, because he's impaired, you know, he has physical disability, so he's confined to his car and as a means of mobilization. And funny story, I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot for this, but the human clay.
You got to tell us about this one, because that's probably the most bizarre story of the whole thing.
And this, I'm about to ruin it for everyone because the story title.
Let's just read it right now.
I realized after the fact, because I generally like I'll Google the story title and make sure I'm not ripping anyone off.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that for this one, and I looked it up after, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And it's a Creed album. I
was going to say like, one of the bands I hate the most, but yeah, that when I read that, I was like, "What the? I got to make fun of him for this."
And I emailed Sam right away. I'm like, "Dude, I fucked up. Like,
cancel the whole project. We're done.
I just burn it." Yeah.
So, tell us about that story. Where did without telling us what happens, where do these ideas come from? Because it's such a bizarre thing about what happened to this guy.
So yeah, without giving too much, so this one was written for the Cronenberg anthology. Sam and I each wrote a story. So you know, there's a lot of elements in there that are very deliberately kind of tapping into that Cronenberg's kind of visual language and stuff. But the one element you're talking about, like, like the pig thing. So like I do, you know, I love animals and stuff, but like pigs, for some reason, like I'm like, there's something really fucked up about pigs. Like they're genetically very similar to humans, and like there's just the stories of pigs like eating people and stuff. And I just think how horrific that would be to be eaten by a pig. But also, I read somewhere that a pig can orgasm for like 30 minutes long, and that was the fact that like propelled me like towards there's an element in that story. But I was just like, imagine like that's debilitating. Like you're just humming for 30 minutes straight.
Hold on, guys, goodness.
Now we know what kind of porn you're watching.
You're like 5 minutes into, you're like, I'm over this. Can we please be done?
Yeah. I'm done. You know.
Yeah, it's almost like
the worst $9.99 I ever spent.
Like a trip that won't end, but yeah, it's fun for the first like 10 minutes, and then
like it's starting to hurt now, guys. Yeah. Can we be over it, please? because that's just like the embodiment of body horror out of all the stories.
Yeah,
At
the
least for
most
me, it
like
was.
overt depiction. Yeah.
Like just gnarly, nasty, sexual, gross body horror
Yeah.
with pigs involved.
Yeah.
That's the description right there. That's your review right there.
That's my review. Yeah, it would suck to get eaten by a pig because it's not like they have sharp teeth. They're just like grinding you instead of like. I guess do they have sharp teeth at all in the front?
I think
Do
they're like
actually-
really
pigs do that?
human-like.
I know like boars have the tusk and stuff, but just
Right.
a pig, do they have sharp teeth?
Boars and hogs, right? I know they do that,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I didn't know pigs can eat people.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Robert Picton, like the Canadian serial killer, he would feed some of his victims. He would own a pig farm, and he would feed some of the victims to the pigs.
Like they even crunch the bones up, don't they?
Yeah, they eat everything, so it's just like
That's quite
a really messed up way to dispose of them. But
That's
the
like
best way to.
silence the lamb stuff, isn't it?
yeah,
That is the best way to get rid of a body. It's food for the pig, and it's taking care of your problem. 2 birds with 1 stone.
Oh, but so that does that make us cannibals then? Because I mean, we end up eating bacon.
Yeah, that's another weird
pork.
thing to think about. Because like, well, even like I think like Margaret
It's-
Atwood tapped into that, where they're like orcs and crake and stuff. There are these genetically engineered pigs, like
Mhm.
that have like more human traits, and they develop sentience. I think.
For those just now tuning in, if you eat bacon and pork, you are a cannibal.
Probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just read since Chad was in here, I read his new collection recently, and he has something kind of like that, which was kind of fun at the end. You'll have to read his new collection, but yeah, I won't
Oh, is
say
it-
more about it.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Spinal Remains is the collection. I can't remember what the story was called, but he has something similar to that.
I'm
Kinda what we're
only
talking
about
about.
halfway through it. Is it closer to the end that you're referring to?
I feel like it was in the middle.
Okay, maybe I'm getting ready to do it then.
You'll know the story because it's like one of the most painful scenes to have ever read without giving anything away. It's like, oh, that just hurt my body so bad. So yeah, a little bit of body horror in that one.
Awesome.
So before we went on the air, you were telling us a story about we were talking about shipping. We were talking about cost of shipping, and I got to know why you bought a rubber Godzilla mask, and what was the shipping cost on that? Like you said,
Yeah, it
150
was like
bucks or so.
yeah, it was directly from Japan, so it cost it was like a little over $100, I think.
I mean, did that make it authentic?
I think so. Like it's specifically so like I love the Godzilla films. Like those
Yeah.
were like I rented those from Blockbuster actually, like as
There
a
you
kid
go.
to the point where like I broke the VHS tapes. And this mask is specifically from Godzilla versus King Kong in the original, where he looks
Okay.
like really goofy and his eyes are kind of like
Yeah.
on the side of his head. So I ordered this. I'm like, I need this. And I went to a music festival with the specific aim to scare children with this mask. That kind of go to the water. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah,
Scaring kids
definitely.
is great.
Yeah.
I can say that as a parent. I love to scare my kids.
Those just now tuning in. If you eat pigs, you're a cannibal, and scaring kids are great.
Yeah.
Like my oldest son, he's 6. He hates it. He gets so pissed off when I scare him. My youngest son is 1, and he finds it hilarious. Every time I scare him, he just laughs. Just
He
like
just probably just
hysterically.
cackles, has no clue
He
what's going
does.
on. Yeah.
He doesn't have any
Yeah,
idea
my
what's going on,
niece
but he
is
thinks
kinda
it's
like that.
hysterical.
Yeah, she's like she takes it pretty well. You spook her and she laughs and stuff, so it's pretty funny.
My oldest one, he gets so mad,
Yeah.
which makes me want to do it even more. It makes it even funnier.
Oh, it's so fun to scare people.
So what's going back to years and years and years? What actually got you into writing? Did you do stuff in like grade school? Did you write short stories in grade school and just decide I'm going to follow this, or was it a dare or what?
So I think of the earliest like manifestation of it, like I was like 6, and I would do like going back to this actually ties into Godzilla. So I would I would do my own comic books, but like basically Godzilla ripoffs.
Yes.
Nice.
And I remember specifically there was like stuff like like a T-Rex versus like you remember those old woodcuts of like sea monsters, like where they have like spouts coming in, like I had one of those things. And I remember in school, I went to like French Catholic school my whole life, except for university. But
So they frowned upon your horror stories, didn't they?
oh man, yeah, it wasn't fun. There was nuns and stuff. It wasn't a good time. But
you got to send them copies of that.
yeah, I got to put it in their library. But
It would
yeah,
just instantly burst into flames as soon as it went into the building.
I can't even step into church anymore, man. Like, but yeah, like I remember one time I drew this picture in class, and it was like a guy getting his arm ripped off by a giant praying mantis, and I remember
Nice.
like the teacher like leaned down and looked, and she's like, "Oh, that's nice," and like I'm surprised my parents didn't get a call, but yeah, like so it went from like I wrote those comics when I was like 6. At 8, I wrote my first book, so it was always something that was just like I started out being interested in like fantasy and stuff, and
Mhm.
then as I got older, like I veered more towards horror fiction. Like it was very deliberate. Like I remember just thinking like, hey, like I really am fascinated by this, and so I bought. I think it was edited by Mort Castle. It was like On Writing Horror. It was one of those Reader's Digest on writing books, and
Mhm.
there's a list at the beginning where it's just like the top horror novels you should read if you want to write horror. So I started there, and then you just follow that branch. You read like Lovecraft, and then go to Clive Barker, and then just sort of follow it.
So you read all those too while you were trying to be a writer.
Yeah, I read like and watched absolutely everything from like total garbage, like VHS transfer movies to like like classics and stuff. So I was just really like immersing myself because at that time in my life, I was just going through a lot health wise. So horror became like almost like a weird coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, and in the writing especially, so it kind of transferred over. But I was just a sponge and just absorbing as much as I could.
So Godzilla essentially got you into horror in a roundabout way.
Exactly. Yeah. I still love that stuff. Like those are the only movies I watch with the dub in them because it's
Okay.
just so much funnier. Like when,
Like it's not synced up whatsoever, and
yeah, it's just
I
like,
love when it's like one word, but their mouth is still.
yeah.
oh yeah, the best is like there's one where like they're really kind of abrasive child character, but you can tell it's like a grown woman that's voicing him, and it just sounds so bizarre.
There's something just like nostalgic and appealing about those movies that like they're so bad that they're good kind of thing.
Yeah, they're like comfort food at this point for me because I
Yeah.
just watched them all when I was young. And
But even for like the Godzilla stuff, like the person dressed up in the puppet, like all that's pretty cool and kind of ahead of its time for when they did that.
yeah, it's wild too. Like when you watch like or read about the process behind the first one, the guy because the suit was just so impractical and like confining, and I think he would pass out repeatedly, and they would have buckets to like collect his sweat and shit, and like
There's like no OSHA.
Yeah.
yeah, and just studio
paint
lights
these
burning
peanuts.
down.
Yeah, because you're on all the studio lights, just emitting that heat through that suit.
Yeah, just baking in there, like it's awful.
Because I've
No
worked in
hazard
a
pay.
yeah, I've worked in a haunted house before, so I've worn like the latex and stuff mask, and they do get hot, but that's in the dark. I can't imagine in a studio with all those big hot lights coming through that suit.
Yeah,
I mean, that'd be awful.
yeah, you got to try wearing a Godzilla suit in the hothouse.
Just be dead. You could totally see. This is way off topic, but the Power Rangers got inspired by Godzilla.
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
Oh,
actually
yeah.
I didn't really watch that as much, but like all the stuff like Ultraman and all that stuff was
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's
yeah,
like spin-offs or knockoffs right now that my kids watch. I'm like, that's like a Power Ranger knockoff. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what is
Power
that?
Rangers.
Weird stuff.
There's always like it's Power Rangers, and they have whatever the subtitle is. Power Rangers in space or Power
I mean,
Rangers.
I was
whatever
too
it
old.
is.
Did you watch Power Rangers? I was too old for Power Rangers.
I did when I
I
was.
wasn't a fan.
I watched
the original
Voltron.
one. I watched
Oh,
Voltron
yeah.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched
Voltron
Power
was
Rangers
stuff.
with whatever the original one was. Probably my early teens was like when it was sort of getting out of it, but it was just cool to watch people fight monsters on there.
Yeah.
It's so cheesy and bad. Because my kids watching, I was like, why did I watch this as a kid? This is awful.
I know. Looking back, it's like, oh, some of that's just pretty bad. So we've established Godzilla and Clive Barker. Those are your
Your
My
influences.
my
for your
creative
writing.
parents,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then some porn movies that we've never heard of. And that's a good description for this book. Clive Barker meets Godzilla meets
Porn you never heard of.
Yeah.
porn you never heard of. That's my review. It'll be up next week.
You got to finish the book first, Jay.
I will. really behind on my reviews.
So are short stories, is that what you're most comfortable with, you think?
Yeah, but I feel like it's time. Like I'm feeling like it's the time to move on to longer stuff.
Mhm.
Not that I've like had my fill. Like I'm still gonna, when I'm offered, to write something, I'll still do it. But yeah, I'm just really it's about challenging myself, and I really want to kind of push and explore different ways to tell a story.
Do you have a lot of short stories in other anthologies? I know you mentioned the one, was it in the Eye of the,
Oh,
what is it with Weird Punk?
Stories of the Eye. Yeah.
You have one
yeah,
in
I've
there.
been in a few. Yeah.
Mhm.
Most of them, like, I mean, a lot of them in here were previously published in a different
Okay.
anthologies. Yeah, because I love like being able, like, I do kind of still keep my eye on like what's accepting stuff, and if something catches my eye.
So you're usually looking to see if people are putting calls out as
Like,
opposed
yeah,
to
like
just releasing your own. Like this is, you said most of these have been in other things. So
Mhm.
after you got the rights back, he's decided to put them together then, or because
Yeah.
I've always wondered about that. And I think it was Mark Taust that we mentioned this too, because he told us he has like 100 short stories ready to go, basically. And my question to him was, why not just release a short story collection? And I think he's going to eventually, or he has, but I think he's always looking for a call out there. Do you have stories that are ready to go for calls? Would you rather do it that way, or do you prefer putting a bunch of originals into a short story collection like this?
I think like what I'm most comfortable, like right at this moment, like if I get an idea independent of any kind of call, I just write it, and then I'll look for something somewhere to submit it. Or like I'm fortunate where like I do get invitations and stuff,
Mhm.
so I do write around themes, and uh, but I always try to do it in a way that like it feels true to like what, like it has to be like something I would write. I'm not a huge fan of like very like ultra thematic, to the where you have to adhere to very specific
Yeah.
parameters.
Uh-huh.
And it's challenging, and like I'm sure there's a lot to be learned from it, but I feel like it's slightly like creatively stifling for me personally.
Some are so specific that's like, okay, we're looking for this and this and this. And I'm thinking, well, I can do 2 of those 3 things, but the third thing, that's I'm out of the question for that. Some are just very specific. That's why I'm always curious why people don't do more of their own original short story collections.
Mhm.
But they're like, I guess they do, and I just don't see them all. But
Mhm.
yeah, some of the calls that are out there, it's just so very specific. And like, if you get 1 or 2 things out of line, you're not going to get picked for it. So,
Yeah.
but that is a story now that you have for your own collection. So,
Yeah, and I think like I definitely, come out of my comfort zone in that regard. Like for Sam Richard edited, it was called Zombie Punks Fuck Off, so it's like
mhm.
punk zombie collection. Um, and I was like, I don't think I have a zombie story in me, but I sat down and I thought about it, and I did kind of my own approach to it. So like I think like even when I like I do put those like weird limitations, like I'm never gonna write a ghost story, and I wrote a ghost story, or no
Mhm.
zombie stuff, and I'm like I do have an idea for a vampire thing, but I'm like it's kind of
There you
like
go.
I'm
I
holding
love
it off.
vampire stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like, it's fertile ground for like innovation and like doing different stuff. And I think people are more accepting of it because it's like so prevalent in pop
That's
culture.
kind of one of those genres that you don't really say you're doing until it's ready to go.
Exactly.
Just,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
like, just so you
yeah.
don't get, so you don't get the eyes like, "What?
Yeah.
Vampires. What the hell are
I'm
you talking
writing
about there, buddy?
yeah.
Zombies
Twilight
and
fan fiction.
vampires?"
Yeah.
you know, like 2 of the genres that I've gotten like some bashing over the last few years because of bad TV shows and things.
Yeah. Oh,
Vampires and
yeah.
zombies.
It's
If you say vampire, I'm instantly interested in the story, regardless of what the rest of it is.
well,
Like, I just oh.
there's some really solid vampire books, like, Poppy Z. Bright. There
Mhm.
was one by it's called Stainless. It's the same dude who wrote Brand New Cherry Flavor, but that's probably one of the more original takes on it. It's
Okay.
like a
I haven't heard
vampire
of that one.
girlfriend story, but it's really well done. Yeah,
Have you watched Brand New Cherry Flavor?
yeah.
I've only watched that one scene that everyone was talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, with
Oh yeah,
the
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 stomach
special
thing.
sex scene
Yeah.
that, yeah, I haven't watched the series yet, but it was all over. we were talking about TikTok before we went on the air too, and it was all over TikTok. That's how it was like, what did I say, episode 4, episode 7, or something like that. It said what mark to what minute, and I had to go
with a
watch
timestamp.
it.
It's funny, that scene when I was watching it, I was like, fuck, because there's in Nightmares in Ecstasy, there's a story where like something very similar happens, and I was just like, fuck. And I read the book after watching the show, and it doesn't happen in the book, so like it's just like exclusive.
They copied off your book, man. Send him a cease and desist letter.
Get some royalties.
That was weird.
Is it a pretty extreme? I have not watched it, but I've heard it's a pretty extreme series.
I think it's great. I love like Hollywood stuff, especially weirder Hollywood. Like Boogie Nights is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
It's amazing. And anything kind of that's one genre that I really kind of gravitate toward.
When they take a chance like that, like the gritty, controversial things. That's why I get into some stuff's still so watered down, but when you get into something like that, it's like, okay, this is cool. This is what you could do,
Yeah, like mining that kind of underbelly of Hollywood and stuff. And it's just, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So would you be interested in writing some kind of weird horror underbelly Hollywood story?
I do have an idea for that one. Yeah, it's very near the surface, actually. And it's funny because like I won't really talk about it because it's not anywhere near like even being written yet. But the title for Pornography for the End of the World was a working title for this idea.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I applied it to this one instead. But I do have another one.
And then you did your 23 different redrafts and
exactly.
I'm not gonna let you live that down.
No, I deserve it.
Because I feel like that you don't really see much horror that involves Hollywood like that, so that could be something new and fresh.
Yeah, and I'm really
not that
really
it hasn't been done, but
the idea. So, and I think the thing is like I just want to do more. This is the one book I actually want to actively research, because a lot of my stuff I don't, because it's just kind of seat of my pants kind of stuff. But like this one I would like because it spans decades and it actually draws on real history and stuff,
classic Hollywood and stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, with all the different streaming platforms now, I mean, it's a possibility it could be turned into something that Prime shows or Netflix or Hulu or one
Shudder.
of the Shudder
like,
would be a Shudder original, because that's gained a lot of grounds over the last couple of years.
There's some great stuff on there.
Yeah, so possibilities definitely.
Yeah, that's another kind of. I would love to get into screenwriting. Actually, a writer I really admire reached out and said like, "Hey, you should really think about turning Nightmares in Ecstasy into like an anthology film." So, and I definitely kind of was on my mind. And the only thing I'm intimidated by the technical aspects of screenwriting because it's so different from writing fiction, right? So that's a hurdle that I have to overcome to learn those technical aspects. But yeah, I'd love eventually to kind of transfer over.
Anthology movies are pretty interesting because they need to be done right.
Yeah.
I didn't mind, and I don't know how close because I haven't read all of Clive Barker's Books of Blood, but didn't Hulu last year, year before
they had
Books of Blood, and it was and some I don't know enough about the actual books to compare it. I didn't mind the movie. The movie I thought was fine, but I think it got bashed because it
I don't know if it was actually.
From,
I don't know if it's actually based on any of his stories or if they just took the title and threw his name on.
I thought it was supposed to be loosely based. Maybe somebody could correct me. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I mean, when you use that name, though, you're like, okay, it's going to be
because that'd be awesome as an anthology. But I feel like he's one of those writers that's actually just very difficult to adapt. Like the only one who did it properly. Like I think, like when he like Hellraiser, it's because obviously Barker wrote and directed that himself.
Yeah. Candyman was pretty good too.
Oh yeah, that's incredible. Yeah,
that's a bit more grounded compared to a lot of his other stuff, though.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was reading your new collection, I was picturing a lot of these like playing out on screen on TV or movie or whatever. It's like they were very visually pleasing, where you could, I could visualize this monster and the light flashing from that road down the road, the house down the road, and all the ashes raining down, and everything.
Yeah,
it's very a very visual writing style that you have.
Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, that's one thing I would love to write film, and the only thing, like, because applying, I definitely thought um, of applying for like Canadian film grants and stuff to
Mhm.
fund a project, but I'm always worried that like they're gonna look at my resume and the stuff I publish and be like, "Fuck no, we're not gonna give you money." Like make this weird porn adjacent horror thing, like.
But here's the thing though, okay, say this collection, it wouldn't have to be a movie, it could be a series, because if you've watched any of the American Horror Stories or even the Canadian version is called Slasher, I think.
Oh
right?
yeah, that actually shot in my hometown.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch they're weird, crazy, sexual, horror, body, all that stuff. That's what this is. So I mean, because okay, this is a lot of this is like apocalyptic horror stories, body horror stuff. There was a whole season, the apocalypse was coming for American Horror Story.
Oh,
It
that's
was like
right,
season 8 or 9 or whatever.
That's what it's called, American Horror Story Apocalypse.
Yeah. I mean, so if it was like into like a series like this, I could definitely see, each one of these stories being, an episode in that series.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's like I guess TV has come a long way in terms of what is allowed to be shown and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, if you get on HBO, you can do whatever you want to.
Oh yeah, there's some like really that what was it? Euphoria. It was an HBO show with Zendaya. It's kind of a weird
the girl from Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like the surreal like teen drama.
Yeah, she's in like a show that my kids watch, and I'm like, you don't ever watch her new one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't even have to.
Really, I was like, oh my god, there's so many dicks in this show, and it's like they can just do that now. And
just do it. Just do whatever they want. HBO's always been like that.
Yeah.
And then if you go on Netflix, it becomes a hit. They just cancel it. So
yeah.
Once they have a bad track record for that. They just
don't they? Yeah.
I think they spend too much money on other stuff, and then they can't afford the bigger productions that people actually like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you wouldn't even have to, adapt all the stories, because they're doing what's the anthology? Grindhouse Press Worst Laid Plans anthology, the vacation horror. They made a movie out of that, and they picked like 4 or 5 stories from that filmed a little anthology movie.
Yeah,
so that's an anthology movie then, right?
Yeah, they picked. Okay. I think they had 5 originally, but one they couldn't do because the director got dropped out or something. So I think there's 4 stories. And Justin T. Coons, he did the cover poster for it, which looks dope. I think that's coming out later this year or early next year, I think.
Oh, amazing. That's so cool.
They did like
I feel like the horror anthology is there's another VHS coming out. Yeah, so there's definitely like it's still a thing. And it's just I think it's just the challenge of doing it in a way that feels fresh and that connects the stories.
It didn't Shudder have one recently, an anthology movie, like into last year or something?
Yeah, I think so.
You all talked about it on your show, Jay.
Mortuary, was it that one?
Something like
Mortuary
that.
Collection, yeah.
Mortuary Collection, yeah. Okay, yeah. It was all right. It wasn't too bad. I don't remember. I didn't give it a negative.
Negative 20.
Just a flat 0 star. It's not negative.
No, it was probably a 3 or 4 or something like that. I don't know. Who knows? Those numbers are subjective anyway. So
I like anthologies because you get all kinds of different flavors of story and characters and all that stuff all in the same product.
Yeah, and it's cool when there's different directors too. You get like a totally different feel, story to story,
different view and everything.
So is that something you for real thinking about doing, is dipping into screenwriting, adapting some of your stuff maybe?
Yeah, like I have specifically like 3 stories from Nightmares and Ecstasy that are really that could fit well together. It's just I think the thing is like finding the frame for them. Yeah, because that's kind of the linchpin that ties an anthology together. It can make or break it, because you have like really weird things where I just remember, I think it's the Tales from the Dark Side movie. Isn't there like Blondie plays like a witch, and it's like a Hansel and Gretel thing, and that's the frame story, and it just feels really out of place with like all the rest of it. Like the thing is just kind of strung together. It's cool, but like and there's another.
I never thought that fit.
Yeah, it just felt
It
like
was weird, but it was all. I thought it was because it was Blondie to begin with. It was just hey, let's get somebody that's popular to do this part. But I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, like stuff like the Creep Show movie has a really great framing device with the comic and stuff.
Right.
But, yeah, or like I really like the first 2 VHS movies are a lot of fun.
I don't think I've seen the what's the new one for Shudder, VHS 94 or something like that.
Yeah, and I think at TIFF in a couple of weeks or something, there's another one like a 90s set VHS that's coming.
Did you have any you ever have any actors in mind for who you'd like to play any roles in any of your stuff?
No, like that's one thing, like I don't do like, I think a lot of writers do like dream casting in their heads for their characters, and that's never something that because I would cast complete unknowns, I think, to play.
I've always heard that you're not supposed to do that to begin with. Like I've heard like producers and directors get pissed when the writers are coming in with the person I had in mind was Tom Cruise for this, and they ended up picking John Goodman or something like, you know what I mean? Yeah, and they're like, no, we see this person doing, it's just you go in like I had Denzel Washington for this one, and they ends up being like
it's Chris Rock,
Carrot Top or somebody,
Danny DeVito.
Yeah, somebody totally opposite. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I also like the idea of just like, you don't see the actor, you see the character. So just like having someone like, that doesn't really have like a pivotal role that you identify them with.
Yeah, because I do that sometimes. Like it'll be some big name in this movie. It's like I can only see this as Matthew McConaughey. I can't see it as whoever this character he's supposed to be playing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in the Dark Tower movie, which was awful. Like he played the Man in Black, Randall Flagg. I was like, that's just Matthew McConaughey. I can't picture him as Randall Flagg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even felt like just going back to like
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
It's like some really odd connections there. So
yeah, like the guy who played, I forget his name, but he was like the Stan miniseries from the 90s. The guy who played Flag in there was pretty.
Is it Rob Lowe? Is it Rob Lowe that does that? Or is he in Sounds
in there, but he's not.
Rob Lowe is in it. Yeah,
he's not Flag.
Okay.
Yeah, he had the mullet and everything.
I was gonna say he had a mullet, right? Yeah,
yeah.
Mullet, and it's I don't know. Did he ever do anything else?
I don't think. I don't know. Like I just see that role because like I just remember watching that as a kid and being like, yeah, it was like it felt really obviously it was toned down, but it felt really kind of one of the few Stephen King adaptations that kind of captured like the essence of like the book, and I think that's like he's like really hard to adapt.
Yeah.
It's funny because like comparing the old Stan to the new Stan, also comparing the old It to the new It, it's like night and day. It's like,
oh yeah,
technology has changed that much to allow them to do all of this extra graphics and stuff and just put it over the top. So
yeah, I really liked the first part of the new It. I wasn't a fan of the second one, but
second part was a little overkill with a lot of the graphics, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's so hard to adapt because I feel like everyone really loves the kids, and so the second part's always the adult versions, and it doesn't have that same effect as
and how they all became a train wreck, basically.
Yeah.
So
and the kid actors were so good.
No, it's so true. Like a lot of the child actors in that were incredible, and the one thing I remember thinking this, and like when I saw it when I walked out, I'm like, fuck, like the spider creature at the end of the TV movie was better than the thing that they did at the end of the new one.
Right. Yeah.
I just
like I missed the spider thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was a fan of that. I like that. And I know like the people who read the book are really kind of thrown off by the spider.
Well, I mean, I know you two were not born when the original It came out. But I remember watching it because it was over a 4-night? Might have been over 3 or 4 nights, I remember, and racing home to see the finale. And I'm like, the fuck is this spider thing? What? And I was like, it's cool, but what the But then watching the new one, I'm like looking for the whole spider thing out. I'm like, is it there yet? Is it there yet? Because that's what I remember.
Yeah, I was like really looking for. I'm like, this is gonna look great, and then I don't know.
Like see what they've done to the spider.
In part 1 with in the new one, the woman in the painting, like her head was all weird. That was the only part of the first one I didn't like because it was very CGI and it looked very fake.
Yeah, and you know what? It seems like I think it was Javier Botet. He's sort of a character actor who he has like a physical, like he has really long arms and stuff, and he's really tall. So his physicality lends itself to these monsters. Like he's in a lot of Guillermo del Toro stuff.
Yeah,
and
okay.
you look at, I think it was a movie called Mama that he's in, and they do screen tests with him. And he's just wearing a mask and he's crawling on the floor, and it's incredible and it looks so eerie. But then you watch the movie and they just kind of put this CGI glaze
over top of it. It doesn't look good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like keep it raw and just let him do his thing.
Yeah. And they have him on all the prosthetics and stuff, and then like they said, they touch it up with CGI and it just looks fake.
Yeah, and I heard a lot of like I spoke to someone who worked behind the scenes of like the Thing prequel, and they're saying like that's basically what happened because they designed all these special effects for like at one point some guy's chest bursts open, there's like these feelers coming out, but like all the practical work was just kind of supplanted by all this CGI,
which is a shame too.
Yeah, and it's
the
just
practical stuff always looks so much better.
Yeah, because it's in camera and it's I guess like the actors get to really kind of have something to interact with.
And I've heard that it's more expensive to do practical effects than CGI, which just doesn't make any sense to me. You'd think it'd be the other way around.
Yeah, it's
well, I don't know, because they could just create it on a computer, whereas the practical effects you got to like build stuff,
Yeah.
And
so
I can see the price.
You think that the CGI would be more expensive, but I don't know. I guess with the technology now, it's probably a lot easier to do now than it used to be. So it's probably cheaper.
Yeah, and I think
you got some Brainiac just pushed a few buttons and it's there.
Yeah, it's all like simulations and stuff, and because I know practical effects can mess up, and like you can ruin a whole take or something, but because a blood pack explodes in the wrong area. And
I know. I read where in The Shining, when the elevators start to all bleed out, that they had to do that like 2 or 3 times, and it took them like 24 hours to reset the set to be able to do that scene again. So they had to clean it all up and fill up the tanks and get all the blood back in there. So it took like a whole day to redo that whole scene. They do it like 3 times because I can't remember. I'm blanking on the director's name, but he wasn't happy with how it looked the first 2 times.
The blood isn't flowing properly.
Yeah. Nuts.
So stuff like that, I can see that would be way more expensive than just CGI blood, but just getting shot blood, the little.
Oh yeah, that's the most egregious thing when like a blood spatter is CGI. And
I love it when you can tell it, the blood splatters and it gets on the camera and they don't bother to do anything about it. It's just there.
Yeah,
that puts you in the scene.
And it's not a 3D movie, so it's just there.
It's just there.
Yeah.
Like, we can't redo this take. This is our last time. We're just leaving the blood on the camera.
We're out of money. As we start winding down here, Brennan, who are you reading? Are you reading anybody right now that you're excited to share with us? Anybody special that we don't know about?
So I picked up. I haven't started reading them yet, but they're like they're kind of the next stuff, like books by like Haley Piper, Laurel Hightower, and Gabino Iglesias' new book.
I read that one recently. It was really good.
Yeah, he's incredible, and I'm really excited to read his new book. And I'm reading one right now called it's over here, In a Lonely Place by Dorothy B. Hughes. She's it was in like I think it was it was written in the 40s, and it's a noir.
Okay.
But it's really amazing. Just kind of serial killer story, but it doesn't really feel like a normal kind of noir. It's really immersive and well written.
What's that one called again?
In a Lonely Place. Yeah.
Okay. What Hightower book and Haley Piper book did you get?
The Worm and His King for the Piper.
That's a good one.
And Below, the Mothman one for
good.
I love cryptid shit, so I'm really excited for that one.
There's a pretty cool character in Below.
Oh yeah.
That may be a someone's former name when he started doing their YouTube channel. Just FYI.
Oh, perfect. Good to know. No, I just heard a lot of good things about these books. I'm really excited.
Yeah, they're both fun. Haley Piper's great. So is Laurel. They're War Minus Kings you'll like that one because it's very weird cosmic horror kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that one also feels very Clive Barker-ish.
Yeah, wasn't it announced recently there's going to be a trilogy of these?
Yeah, she's doing two more with
I saw something like
with what is it, Off Limits Press, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
Where can people find you? Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah, so all my handles
in his basement.
my name. Yeah, in my in my porn screening room. Just I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I have a TikTok account, but I haven't used it yet.
It's dangerous. Don't do it.
No, I know.
You have a website I was just on earlier today.
Yeah,
you run that because I noticed that your upcoming events we were not listed.
So. No, I'm really bad at updating it. Yeah,
I saved that to the end. I totally saved it for the end. You see that?
Jay gives people crap about their websites all the time.
Under construction coming Christmas of 2021. Like we're a little late.
Yeah, if you look at the post history on the sidebar there, it's like April 2018 and then like May 2021.
Right, this big 2-year gap.
Yeah.
I was just seeing if we were listed as a upcoming event. We weren't, so
no.
That's okay.
That's why Jay didn't say your name in the intro. Out of spite.
Yeah.
Jay, I'm going to ask the dangerous question. What are you reading right now?
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm finishing this collection.
What's that collection called again?
Pornography for the End of the World.
Yeah, hold it up so everybody can see. What's the author's name?
Brendan Vidito.
Press.
Vidito. Huh?
It's from Weird Punk Books.
Yeah. So that's one thing I'm reading.
I've heard they put out pretty cool stuff.
The short story collection from Chalutsky.
Mm-hmm.
Then the 3 novellas from Crystal Lake Publishing with Chad and John Bowden and who else is in there? Bob Ford's in there. One from
we're gonna be here a while, Brendan.
One from Titan Books called The Butcher from
I saw you tweet about that grabbed you right from the beginning.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know anything about The Handmaid's Tale. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it's kind of like a mixture of that and Shirley Jackson's The Lottery mixture, and then it's just brutal. Yeah.
Wait, who wrote that?
What's her name? Laura Cat something. I'm drawing a blank.
Look it up, Jay.
It's on my Kindle machine. I'll look it up on my Kindle on my phone here. Put me on the spot here, guys. Great.
Well, but maybe Titan Books is listening. Maybe they want to put somebody on the podcast.
I know.
Get their authors' names right.
This is so bad. Where is it?
The pressure's on, Jay. While you're looking that up, I'll tell you what I'm reading.
Laura Cat Young. Yes. So Laura Cat Young. That's on there.
I'm gonna write this.
I have 2 different Jack Harding books. I got to do LJ Doherty book.
What's this called? Is it Haven or am I wrong?
Woodhaven.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to read something from Keelan Patrick Burke. Was that a spoiler? Was that a teaser?
Well, I'm reading Sour Candy right now.
Are you? Cool. Yeah. I finished the Evie Knight book, 3 Days in the Pink Tower.
3 Days in the Pink Tower.
Yeah, I finished that. I'm actually
working on next week
for that. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I'm finishing up Dangerous Later's Moonfellows. You asked. You totally asked.
I don't like. I read like a couple books at a time. I don't see how you read so many like this.
I need to finish T.C. Parker's Hummingbird, or she's going to come and kill me.
You've been reading that one for a long time.
I know, and it's so in depth, and it's been a bad summer. It's been rough.
It's like multiple novellas together, right? Instead of one big long novel.
Yeah, it's like a mosaic.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Type together.
Because I saw it was like 300 pages or something. I was like, that's long, but it was like multiple novellas together. So
did I have like 2 or 3 Ronald Malfi books? So I need to
just 2 or 3 of us.
Yeah. And then you sent me the thing about the Foresee last night.
Oh yeah, his the children with the stranger or something like that.
Away, so yeah. So I mean that's
Did you start his book already, or
no?
Just download
that one's like 9,000 pages. Yeah. What about you, Brad? What are you reading right
now? So I'm listening to an audiobook, Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, which is very Handmaid's Tale-ish. I'm only like 4 chapters into it, but it's really good. and I'm reading Full Immersion by Jim O'Moore.
Oh, that too. I got that. Sorry.
It's kind of a
this is the life of a reviewer.
it's more of a it's more sci-fi, but it still has some horror elements to it. It's interesting so far. I like it. It's reading the forward. It seems like it's a very personal book to her and her own experiences into it, the postpartum depression and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
And I'm gonna start the one you just finished, 3 Days in the Pink Tower by Evie Knight. I'm gonna start that one probably tomorrow.
That's actually a quick read, so you
it's
might
pretty
get
short.
done with that probably over
Was
the weekend.
Was that pretty intense?
Does that involve
Based on-
pigs?
No, it's about her. It's
It
like
was
a fictionalized
rough.
autobiographical tale of her real life kidnapping and rape from when she was younger,
Holy fuck!
Yeah.
which just
it-
sounds
I-
super intense.
I kind of call it like a speculative retelling of
Mhm.
the events that happened.
But she's doing it kind of like with like tarot cards or something like that are involved in it.
Yeah, I don't know
somehow.
anything about tarot cards, so I mean,
I don't either. But I think the
Maybe we'll
tower
just
is a tarot card,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I know in the book it's got pictures of tarot cards for like the different
Right.
chapters and stuff.
right? Yeah, it's got some rough spots in it.
That
Writing
sounds really
trying to
intense.
write the review to be, to understand what's happening. It was kind of rough, to what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. I mean, the review was rough to write, also. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
'cause-
difficult book to review.
yeah.
And even more so, like, how do you rate like her own personal experiences that she's gone through? Like, that's like writing like an autobiography. Like, this book sucked. Well, that's like saying that person's life was boring and you didn't like
Right.
it. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard
yeah.
to write things like that.
Yeah. Kind of
Like, even though this
undervaluing
is
their
like a
experience,
fictionalized retelling, it's still real things that happened to her. Like, it's
Mhm.
it'd be hard to talk about that one.
Yeah, it almost sounds like have you heard of Anna Kavan? She's a British writer. I think she
Mm-mm.
does a lot of the same. She kind of filters her trauma through these speculative scenarios, and it's it's surreal, but it's also there's moments like these kind of explosions of violence.
Yeah. There's a few. There's some infuriating parts, and I can tell you that. So get ready for that too. And yeah, I'm a father of 2 girls, so there's a few parts where I was like, just
mad.
Some boiling blood, So
Like you, not to the same extent, but you talked about writing some of your own personal stuff. Is that hard as an author to do that? Incorporate that into your stuff.
It's
I know
hard
Jay's
when
trying to leave,
people-
but
yeah.
oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
It's hard when people kind of see it and when they recognize it.
Mhm.
Especially like with family and stuff. Like I don't want to upset anyone because it's a difficult, when you're writing, not to kind of draw from your personal experience and and it's just I never feel like it's rare that I do feel vulnerable because it's almost like an exorcism. I get it out and it's there, and then I don't really kind of think about it. It becomes almost like an objectified version of that event. But yeah, and I do think there is a kind of therapeutic component to the writing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
just feeling like getting whatever it is off your chest in a way.
Yeah, there's a kind of catharsis that occurs when you're really delving into the subject matter.
Right.
Is there a thing
I
like
mean,
where
it is an outlet, so it is a form of an outlet. So
Absolutely, yeah.
do you ever feel like it's also maybe like extending your hand out, like you had these certain issues or problems, whatever they may be, and maybe a reader can sort of empathize with that, and maybe they're going through kind of something similar, and maybe they can help them out in some roundabout way get through whatever they're dealing with?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. No one's reached out. Like I'm worried, like it's almost like a lot of these things are almost too abstracted sometimes to kind of really get at the core of it. But yeah, that'd be like incredible if someone reached out and was able to find some kind of commonality in there. As weird as some of these stories are. Yeah.
So we'll end it on this. What do you want people to get out of this? What kind of feelings? What experience do you want them to get from Pornography for the End of the World, if there is any?
It's a deep question to end on,
that
Jay.
is I don't know. There's that.
I dug deep for that one. Let's end it on a.
He wants them to get a good time, Jay.
Yeah. yeah, I guess a mixture of like there's like kind of sadness, confusion, repulsion, attraction. Like I've had friends. One of the funniest things is like when someone's like, I kind of felt weirdly aroused, but like kind of felt bad for feeling that way. That's
Makes you
always
feel awkward.
hilarious to me.
I
But
feel shame for getting
yeah.
aroused. Do you ever have any like family or friends like, this is just too much, Brendan? What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I don't know if my parents even read my stuff
I was
anymore.
gonna say, you notice you're not invited to any more family functions anymore?
Yeah, like I don't know, like because I don't think my extended family or anything read my stuff, and that's fine. But because like
would you feel awkward if your mom read these stories?
oh
or
yeah, there's some stuff I just don't like.
Mom
like,
passed on it. Mom, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't read the second, the third, the fifth, and the seventh story.
Yeah, just read this paragraph from this.
Just read the synopsis on the back, and that's all. That's all you need.
Yeah,
why don't I just tell you what it's about, okay? And it's just totally spin it. So
yeah, and it's just kind of like sharing it with people, and like when you're dating, you're like, hey, what do you write? And it's like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Date.
Yeah.
it's been fun. The family function's over. We're done. We're kicking you out. We're done.
Yeah.
You're writing. We just can't handle it. Yeah. And
Jay's gonna go look up that porno movie and he's gonna watch it.
You kind of get the eye rolls at the reunions and stuff. Like that's the guy that wrote it.
Like,
that's the war writer guy.
I feel like I'd be doing something right if that.
Yeah.
He writes about the weird sex. Don't.
Yeah, he's a weird sex guy. Just stay away from him.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. It's been another exciting episode of Paper Cuts, if I do say so myself. Do you guys?
I'm glad you were excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Do you want to throw the winner back up there again in case she just happens to be moseying through YouTube?
You would ask me that, Jay.
She's probably watching.
If not, no biggie.
No, I don't have it anymore.
Okay. Well, you're going to put that on Twitter, right?
Yeah, I'll put it on Twitter tomorrow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was Ren Elizabeth.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we should probably like officially tag her or something, and be like one of these real shows or something. Yeah. Our guest this evening.
At least we spun the wheel and just pick a friend, right?
That is true. That is true.
Our guest this evening. I won the book.
Would you stop interrupting me, Brad? Seriously, can I do this wrap up here?
Well, I'm trying to get to 2 minutes and 2 hours and 5 minutes, Jade. I'm just playing. Go ahead.
No, we're not. Are we?
No, I'm trying to get to that. I'm trying to make it go. Go ahead,
Brendan. Thanks so much for stopping by. I totally appreciate
it. Thank you for having me.
Like the endings of our shows are total train wrecks. We're like, whatever.
The whole show is a train wreck, Jay. From beginning to end.
So the book's available now. Brad will have on the description We're Punk Books website, so you can pick it up there. And if you order directly from Sam and We're Punk, usually get some kind of swag inside. So do it that way. So, Brandon, thanks so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. I think that's it, guys. Until we have a show next week, and next week also, right?
Evie Knight and then Ronald Kelly.
Yeah. Moving along. Thanks to everybody who's in the chat. Even the cannibal Chad Lutsky. Totally appreciate it.
He did that a long time ago.
I know. He was like, screw Jay. I'm done. Until next time, stay safe. See ya. I'm glad you got to see me.
Love you, Jay.
I know you do.